I'm Johnny Vegas, and you're listening to KopTalk with Dunk. And all you other Liverpool sites, just stop embarrassing yourself, alright?
Yo, what up? This your boy Smooth, straight from New York. You're listening to KopTalk Podcast. Remember this, you never walk alone, but if you fuck with us, you walk with a limp.
Alright guys, how's it going? It is Friday, the 17th of February 2023, and you're listening to the KopTalk Podcast in association with footballclubshares.com, where you can buy real shares in real football clubs. That's right, yeah, and you can be a peasant like me. You don't have to be as rich as John Henry, for example. I'm sure we're going to be talking about him today. So how are you doing, guys? You alright? Well, you know what? I haven't churned out many podcast episodes recently, and I guess I should apologise for that. I've been doing a lot of video content, and the thing is, the reason why I haven't done the podcasts is because I don't think there's actually much to talk about. So you can throw a camera on and you can respond to individual, rumours and nonsense and opinion, if you like, but the podcast really has to be news first, and then you can follow that with opinion. So there can be some news, and then you respond to it, and you give opinion, and you guys have a think, and I have a think about what it all is. With the videos, it's not really so much like that. It can be like, well, I'm responding to this rumour, I want to put you right. Do you know what I mean? And they can be 50 minutes long, just addressing one, particular silly claim or something. And I don't think that works in podcast format. So what I have been thinking about doing is ripping some of the audio from KopTalk.tv on YouTube for the patrons, the people that support this podcast, because some people listen to audio when driving or commuting, for example, whereas they can't maybe do that with a video, So I am toying with that, and I've been experimenting with that a little bit. So if you're a podcast patron, I'm sure we'll be doing more of that. If you just listen to the podcast as a casual listener or whatever, if you're not a supporter of the podcast, I'm conscious to the fact that we haven't had a great deal to talk about. I don't want the podcast to be all misinformation and rumours, and sometimes you can make it worse. But there are some things that I do want to talk to you about in today's episode to do with the takeover stuff and things like that. I want to try and focus on non-takeover stuff, really, unless there's credible news to discuss. I don't want to come to you every time with a new rumour or some, bullshit or something, because it drains me, to be honest. And I remember we did an episode recently of the podcast, and I remember saying, wow, we spent the entire episode talking about the takeover and we didn't get to talk about the other stuff. And I think we really need to focus about the other stuff as well, guys, because the takeover situation is just a complete mess. So bear with me while I try and work it all out. Now, I'm actually in England at the moment, so I don't know what the audio is going to be like. I'm over here supporting a loved one whose father died early in the new year, and the funeral has only just come round now. So some of you know that I came over a couple of weeks ago to support that person. I got back here yesterday to support them. They're actually at the funeral right now as I'm recording this. I thought this would be a good time to to do that. So yeah, again, bear with me on that. I'm going to be here until next week. So there'll be no stream tomorrow night on KopTalk.tv. No Saturday night streaming. It will be a week Saturday, which I guess is about the 25th. Is it something like that? All right, guys. So I know some of you like that. We've been having some real good fun on there on the Saturday nights recently. It's been the best Saturday nights we've had for a long time. We've got great supporters. I've got great supporters as well. And it's been mega fun. Am I allowed to say mega fun? Is that something like my son would look at me now and go, Dad, you saying mega? So, where should we start? Listen, first of all, right, I don't want to get too bogged down with the takeover stuff. It is my opinion, if you've not watched my videos, right, it's my opinion that I just have this inkling that that Dubai is watching, right, and to see what happens. There is some credible, there's some credible comment and opinions that that might back up that theory. But I want to be very, I'm trying to see if I can find the. Let me go to the members website. This is where you should be on the KopTalk members website. I want to make it very clear that this is purely speculative, okay, on my part. I'm not basing it on anything I've heard or anything, right? So I'm just looking at the KopTalk VIP members website. If you want to join the squad, if you want to become a member, just go to KopTalk.com, and I'm sure it's on the right-hand side of the page or something like that. So I posted this actually 2 days ago, and I've reached out to someone in Dubai who was involved in previous bids for the club. I'm not naive; they're not going to divulge any secret information, if any even exists. In fact, they're no longer directly involved, and that means in the consortium that tried to buy Liverpool before, or the group, should I say. But they remain in finance and investments in that region. They may have an opinion on whether or not there could be interest in us from Dubai. And I believe if you don't ask, you don't get. So let's see. I am convinced that such interest wouldn't die, and I have always believed that they're monitoring the situation. I know Rich T, and I've put in brackets a member here. He is one of our VIP members. He's Rich. He's a really good lad. Met him a few times. I consider him a friend. And let me just continue reading first. I also know that Rich T has an opinion about Dubai and those involved in attracting interest in the club. I hope he comments on this post. I just want to get a feel for what the word is out there. I'll report back if I hear anything. Now, Rich T, that's his username, Rich T, is he's involved in this kind of, well, not. Let me just. I'll read you what he said, right? And it's his words, because Rich he comments on my YouTube videos. So if you watch my YouTube videos, look out for Rich T, and you should pay attention to him. And he's put, "Hi guys, no ITK here." That means in the know. I'm not, an in the know. He's not trying to be claiming to be privy of any information. And these are his words. He says, "However, a business partner in one of my businesses, right, one of his businesses, has lots of contacts in Dubai. Until recently, he was CEO of a regulated Dubai fund. One of the investors was a family fund of a member from the Dubai royal family. The same fund is now investing via a bond into our business. They are doing this due to our main clients being banks, especially Goldman Sachs. Apparently, Dubai royalty has close links to Goldman's, right? To Goldman Sachs. Now, and then he's put in brackets, one of the banks tasked by FSG to sell us. And he's put, it's not my gig, make of it what you want. And he says, by the way, I gave Dunk more info that I prefer not to share here. So, what he means by that, and I did respond to that. I put, thanks, Rich. I don't think I've repeated anything you said other than publicly on your previous comments, but you haven't done all good. So I just wanted to be clear, and I thought, oh, shit, I hope I haven't, dropped him in it here. And Rich has told me other things privately, which I can't, reference. So sometimes you've just got to go in my thinking sometimes and why I form these opinions of various things, because obviously I can't, go into too much. He obviously has, he just needs some privacy. Do you know what I'm saying? Common sense, right? So this is a real person. I'm not some kind of ITK on Twitter claiming to know this, that, and the other and saying nothing. I'm backing it up with real people. And I think Rich has been, he's certainly been with the members' website, it says here since 1998, right? So he's been with me on my journey since 1998 with KopTalk. So, these are real people. And that was one thing that he said, one thing I wanted to mention to you regarding Dubai. And I also received an email, and I'm not going to mention who this is from because it wasn't sent to the podcast. So this was a private communication. This came in yesterday, and if you are listening, Mark, we can call him Mark, I'm sorry I haven't replied yet. It came in yesterday, and I think I was on a train then. So he emailed me privately about Dubai, and he says, I'm kind of wondering myself, and I've kind of gone down a rabbit hole. He says, anyway, I came across this article from 2009, and I'm attaching a link below. And this is an article in The Guardian. You might want to Google it. It's called Ruler of Dubai Eyes Liverpool Again. All right, that was 2009, mind. And I just thought, he's saying he's just thought about it, but I think Al Maktoum could be applying a similar strategy now to what he was doing back then. Waiting it out kind of thing, you know, obviously comes in if, you know, once the price maybe goes down to favour US investors, you know, because you do think they push it up for the Middle East, yeah. He says, I do have this nagging feeling he really wants us, and I'm basing it off nothing more than my research on the guy and articles that I've read about them in years when Dubai tried to buy us. Now, Mark's been with us for a long time, and I can completely understand his way of thinking here. So I'm glad, because I'm not, you know, just by, you know, forming this opinion by myself. Other people have this opinion as well. But again, it is only opinion, guys, you know, so don't think I'm trying to suggest that Dubai is going to buy us or even attempt to. I just think it's extremely strange that we haven't heard anything from that region since the end of the year. I think we did see some interest. They were linked with us. They've been linked with Manchester United before as well, but I don't believe that link. I think that's lazy journalism. Now, what you have to remember is when Al Maktoum and Sheikh Khalifa and all them, or Dubai International Capital, all those, there was different combinations because there was different bids at different times, because they came in once and had failed and then came again. Rick Parry and was hesitant, as was, you know, David Moores. At the time, the Liverpool chief executive and chairman at the time. And the L4 consortium, if you remember, I was friends with. I'm not going to name names. Most of you know who the L4 consortium is. It's not a secret. I just don't really want to mention people by name in my podcast. I do mention these things in the more private environment, you know, on the members' website or private podcast episodes, or, you know, the members' videos on YouTube or whatever, because they're more of a more of a more like a quiet life kind of thing. Does that make sense? So if you see me put out a private podcast episode or a members only video, that usually means one or two things. One, I want a quiet life. It's just not, I can't be doing with the aggravation. Or two, it's sensitive and it's probably best that I'm not the person putting it out there and let others do it. Does that make sense? So it's not just to try and, you know, squeeze memberships out of people. I'm very, try to be upfront with that. I love people that support me. I can't survive without memberships and subscriptions. That's just reality. And people seem to appreciate what I do, the work I do. So if they didn't and said, you're shit, we want nothing to do with you, you know, I'd just crack on and do other things in life. But people like my content, and I'm going to do it for that reason, but I do need help. I can't survive by myself, you know. KopTalk is my only income. So I basically say, if you want to support me, get a membership, get a subscription, buy me a drink on a Saturday night, all them kind of things. I don't clickbait people. Well, I certainly don't intentionally clickbait people. Sometimes you have to put certain names in in a title or something. So, you know, it's not to just try and get more members or anything. And I think my existing members, people like Rich T, for example, back to the 90s, they would all testify that, you know, to that, and would confirm that, you know. So we try not to do the IT case shit around KopTalk. You know, we're grown ups. Like, you know, at the minute, I think there's so much immaturity on Twitter, on Twitter Spaces and YouTubes and podcasts, and that. It's kind of turning me off a bit. Actually, I'm starting to think I'm a little bit too old for this, to the point where I really want to go undercover and just disappear from it all, because it's not something I want to get caught up in, guys. But I do like speaking to the mature people, like Mark, like Rich, where we're exchanging ideas, you know, about what might be going on. Now, maybe you might look at that and go, well, that's a bit, you know, you can't know what's going on then. Well, I'm sorry, but if you really think that the clique of LFC journalists do things any differently than what me and my group of people do, you're deluded, because that's all they can do. And when they get tipped off something by someone, do you not think that I get that too? You know, so, you know, the fans can be as knowledgeable as the journalists and stuff like that. In fact, I would say that the fans know more than some of these journalists, because these journalists, see how we're ended up going in a different conversation here. The journalists, if a journalist is on a salary, on a payroll for someone, they have to do certain things. People like me, right? I don't have to toe the line. I can say what I want. And I don't mean that like in a cocky way. I mean, if I want to say something about John Henry, I'm not going to lose access to anything because I don't have any official access via John Henry or anything like that. If you're a journalist and you start questioning things, you might lose your access. And if you lose your access, you might lose your job. So if you work for The Athletic, for example, and you're paid to bring Liverpool, news and knowledge, if you're squeezed out, you're not much of an asset to The Athletic anymore, and you're gone, and maybe you're not able to pay your mortgage anymore. And that's why they toe the line. And the one thing I would say to you like this is, if you imagine this clique of journalists, let's say 10 Liverpool FC journalists that concentrate on Liverpool all the time, have you noticed how they've always got the same opinions, the same news, right? So if there's me and 9 of you, all right, sat in a pub having a few beers, are you telling me that all 10 of us would all have the same opinions? We wouldn't, would we? But do you not think it's funny how the journalists do? That's because they're all on the same page. They all have to be on the same page. None of them have got any balls to say any different because none of them are independent. So you've got to remember that, guys. So there's pros and cons. The journalists, people like James Pearce and that, I like to read what James Pearce has got to say, but it doesn't mean that I necessarily would endorse what he says. Paul Joyce, for me, is the daddy at the moment. He's the one. He keeps, he doesn't type up huge, he just goes on Twitter, drops like one sentence in and vanishes. He don't care what people think about him or anything. And, I'm not saying that he is a journalist that would challenge or disrupt anything, but he's the one of the journalists I would pay special attention to because the rest of them just copy him, in my opinion. Which obviously means that someone up the chain trusts him, okay? But to get that trust, you have to toe the line as well. So, there are journalists that I know that work for the national media in England that focus on Liverpool Football Club that have specifically approached me before to leak news out through KopTalk because they said, I can't get this out, I can't publish it, you can, all right? And that's what happens. And it's really, really good. And one day I hope I can talk about all this, a lot more. I certainly can't dedicate an episode on the podcast to it. But going back to the Dubai stuff, and journalists. This is really, really important. So let me just break this down again. I personally, and it's a view shared by others, I personally think that Dubai is just watching and waiting. And we might never see anything from them because they might be looking and going, have you seen how much they want? Fuck that. And you might never hear anything. But if an opportunity presents itself, I think Dubai would be all in. I really do. And they've tried a couple of times. Now, I reached out by email to one of the main people that represented the likes of Al Maktoum and all that. He was, I don't want to say who because I don't want people bothering that person at the moment. Like I say, he wouldn't be involved in any of that now. But he will have knowledge of that region. And I just thought, I'm just going to ask him and I'm going to tell him, what I know. And see if he's going to reply. Now, he might reply and say, look, I don't want to... One, he might not reply. 2, he might reply and say, I don't want to go on the record. But he might be open. I'm only asking general information. I'm not asking, like, are you part of a bid? What can you tell, like that. All I'm saying to him is, look, I know you were involved in this before. And because of your knowledge in Dubai, in a business sense, do you think that Al Maktoum, for example... or maybe not, if you don't want to comment on him specifically, do you think that there would be an interest in Dubai, in Liverpool Football Club, in football clubs in general, blah, 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 so that he can reply in a way that doesn't make him sound like he's not trustworthy because he's still involved in this stuff. And if his clients think he's chirping like a budgie, they might go, well, he's not someone we want to go to. But is it really controversial if he turns around and says, well, yeah, my knowledge in Dubai and business, I think that there could be interest in investing in a football club in England from this region. The money's there. That's the only kind of answer I'm looking for, if that makes sense. He could reply and say, no, I don't think Dubai would pursue a football club without even naming a football club, right? And that might be it, one sentence reply, and that would be enough to meet my questions that I have about this. Does that make sense, guys? So, yeah. Sorry, I'm just throwing myself, just thinking things in my head. It would make enough, that would make sense to me to me. Hang on, no, it wouldn't make sense to me. Can you tell I've totally lost my trail? I haven't lost my trail of thought. There was just something else I wondered what I should mention. That would be enough to satisfy the unanswered questions that I have. It doesn't mean that just the opinion of one person is concrete. But I think if he came back and said, nah, Dubai, I can't see that, Duncan, then that to me would be like, could kill that thought, could kill the thought of Mark, could kill the thought of Rich, who is involved in all that shit. And, we, might move on to something else and go, right, it probably isn't going to be that then. Now, so for me, I would just keep an eye on Dubai, right? We're hearing everything about Qatar. I think when you hear about something, why are we hearing about that? Like I always think if you're hearing a lot about, let's just say a Liverpool player, and he's constantly in the news all the time being linked with a move away, right? If he's the greatest player, then it's obvious at times other clubs are going to want him. But sometimes I would think, is he pushing for it? Is that his agent getting that out there? Is something not going right? So when we constantly see these claims from Qatar, from my experience, right, that often means that the person that's trying to achieve something is not succeeding, is putting the information out there themselves. So if you've seen a lot about Qatar, it's probably because Qatar are not succeeding. They're using trusted sources or journalists or whatever in that region to get it out there, and that's why you're reading it. And I always think it's the ones that you don't hear about that is what you should give more consideration to. So you can't give consideration to something you haven't heard, so you start to think, well, what regions are being quiet? And it's like, well, Dubai's being very fucking quiet. This is someone that's trying, a place, that's wanting to buy Liverpool Football Club for a long time. You've got Liverpool Football Club going out there towards the end of last year. We've had multiple takeover attempts, from these people. Due diligence 3 times, I believe, on one of them, because the guy that was heavily involved in it was a Liverpool fan, and he was like, I need to show my bosses or my investors that this isn't just because I'm biased about Liverpool. So did due diligence 3 times, and there are quotes out there about that if you look for it in all the credible newspapers, from back at the time. And I looked at this article that Mark sent me, ruler of Dubai eyes Liverpool again. It's 2009, right? And maybe things have changed, but I often say, it's like you might have fancied a girl, at one point in your life, or a woman, you know what I mean? It depends on your age, right? And you might have gone, yeah, and you might have tried to date her, and you might have got knocked back. It might have fell through. For whatever reasons, it might not have happened. And then she ends up dating someone else, so you have to give up, right? So you give up, and then many, many years later, someone says, hey, who is it? She's single again. She's not with him anymore. Really? So at that point, you then think, don't you, do I still fancy that bird from 10 years ago? Or have I moved on with my life? Right? Do I make a fresh attempt to woo her? Or do I not bother? Because now I'm married. So maybe my circumstances have changed. And as much as I've got a bit of, a thing for that particular person, I can't go in that direction now because my circumstances have changed. Or you might look at it and go, well, back then she was just an ordinary lass, wasn't she? Working in town centre, she's minted now. I can't compete with that. I ain't got the funds to look after her. So circumstances can change. It's the same thing, guys. I know it's jokey, but it's the same thing. So I know that Al Maktoum, for example, has fancied Liverpool Football Club for years. For years, whether it was his individual aspirations or whether he was part of something else in that region. And he fancied us for all them years, and has he suddenly gone, that's it, I don't fancy you anymore, not attractive? No, if you fancy someone, if you love someone, it's probably there all your life, And, but there's also the other side of it as to, well, can I make that happen now? Or has things changed? Hence my email to Dubai to see if I can try and find out what might be going on in that region. So going to my point about Qatar, if you're hearing about things, usually something's not working right in that favour, because look at the transfers these days. We get linked with many players, right? And we go, oh, maybe that'll happen, maybe that. And then all of a sudden we go, fucking hell, where did that come from? Do you see my point? So we might do business like that on a player level, and we just signed a player that, well, none of us fucking knew about that. That's because everything was going right. So everything was going right, meant the agent didn't need to leak anything. The clubs didn't need to link anything. The clubs selling the player didn't try and drum up more interest because they were happy what was being proposed. If things were not going right, then that club might get it out there via someone that their player's on the market, which attracts other clubs, right? If the agent's not getting the terms for his client that he wants, and he's going to leak it, innit? So when things are not going right, you hear about it. I don't think you often hear about things when they're going right until they happen, So, and I do think that happens when it comes to business as well. Someone like Rich, for example, would be able to provide more opinion on that. Maybe he might say, "You're absolutely right, Duncan." And to be honest with you, he has said that a few times, on my YouTube comments, which is nice because it means that my way of thinking is spot on, despite the fact I put my hands up right now and say I know fuck all about big business. I don't even know anything about ordinary business, which, do you know what I mean? I'm not a businessman, I'm an accidental businessman. I started a website as a hobby back in the 90s, and obviously it has to become an entity and responsibility, and you've got to pay taxes and things like that. So that's about as far as my business sense goes. I've never looked at a spreadsheet in the 25 years I've done KopTalk. Never looked at a spreadsheet, never looked at projections, I couldn't tell you now whether we've got the same members we had 20 years ago. I have no idea. Because as long as I can turn the light on, the switch on the wall, that must mean I'm all right at that particular moment. I wish I could leave my lights on a little bit longer, though. So, one more thing on the ownership front. Well, this is my whole point. Look at how much long we've been talking about this one subject already. This is how it fucks the podcast up. So, I put a tweet out yesterday on @KopTalk, right? And I think I might have put it on Facebook as well, @KopTalk, I can't remember. And it was along these lines. It was like, beware anyone that, if you get one journalist that claims an exclusive to do with Liverpool Takeover, right? Let's say he says a particular organisation in Qatar or a group in Qatar wants to buy Liverpool Football Club. And he bangs on about that for weeks. And he's the only one banging on about it for weeks, right? Therefore exclusive. And he's got everyone following and listening to his every word. And then all of a sudden, he changes that and goes, I told you that they were in, well, they're not now. I'm always suspicious of that. By default, you shouldn't dismiss, because that would be unfair, because there are times when individuals do have exclusive news. But I always think when someone says, I can tell you right now exclusively that this is happening, right? And we're talking about big journalists. We're talking about journalists here, right? Not people at my level that might know someone at the club or something like that. But these big journalists that are paid money to write news articles, right? If one of them says, I can tell you right now this is happening, they're trying to buy Liverpool and nobody else is saying it, but then later they say they're not trying to buy Liverpool anymore. I'm just suspicious of that. To me, I might as well erase that. That's how I deal with it. Doesn't mean that journalist was wrong. And you have to understand that things can change in football. Right? There could be some truth to it. But to me, unless I see 2 or 3 people credible, and this applies to whether the journalists or people I know behind the scenes, if I get 2 or 3 people that I know from all them years doing KopTalk telling me the same thing or making the same claims to me, and then people don't know each other either, I know it's happening, I know it's true. And I get new rumours every day and new suggestions. But when it comes from one, even if it's the most trusted, I think, I can't go with that yet. I need a bit more than that. No, when someone else comes in and says it, I think, oh, fucking hell, there's something in this. So when a couple of journalists out there maybe say the same things, you give them a bit more attention, I think. But when it's just one, don't dismiss and go, he's a lying bastard, he's made this up. I just don't pay too much attention to it, you know what I mean? So please give that some consideration. I also am going to say this. I'm not FSG in, right? I don't like FSG. I never liked FSG from before they bought the club, all right? And I went out to Boston and did plenty of digging, and I came back and told you all back then, FSG will manage your expectations. That was the message I brought back from Boston. You have to decide whether FSG have managed your expectations in those years. Now, we have to admit they have done good, and they've also made mistakes. And in fairness, and when they've made mistakes, they've addressed them. I don't think FSG are bad people. I just don't think FSG are the right owners for us. That's it, all right? I don't believe they will ever be ambitious. I want to be owned by football people, not just the Arabs because they've got lots of money, But I know that people in those regions are very passionate about Liverpool Football Club, just like Maltese football fans, for example. People in Malta. You ever been to Malta? Meet the Liverpool fans out there, all right? The Far East even, these people are really, really passionate about football. When you go west, you go to America, they're not, because they've got their own sports and that. And we got lots of our fans out there that are passionate, but they're individuals, So I get it. We all understand it. So as much as I'm FSG out, right, I'm not going to hate on FSG. And I will tell you this, there are people out there right now saying things about FSG that are not true. Not true. And they're doing it for their own agenda because they want FSG out. So they're then planting the seeds for you to annoy you and to wind you up and to incite further animosity towards FSG, right? So I'm not defending FSG, guys. Please realise that. But I believe in fairness. I absolutely believe in fairness. So if you see something by someone making a claim about FSG and it's on social media, click on their username, go back through their history. Have they got agenda? Right? Because sometimes they don't say, and that's why I try and be transparent, because I try to, if you watch my videos or maybe listen to my podcast, I'll say, look guys, for transparency, if you're new around these parts, this is how I feel about things, because I would be biased, wouldn't I? Or I could be biased. I can assure you I'm not biased. I don't think I'm biased. I think I'm very fair. I want FSG gone. I do. But I want them to replace my football people. I don't care if they come from America. If they're football people, I just think the chances of that are very slim. And I think if you go down the minor investment route, then you're only buying time, because a minor investor is not going to invest a lot of money, which brings me to a point, actually, by Simon Jordan yesterday, which I thought was exceptional, which I'm just trying to find on my phone for you now. Let me take a second. I did put it out on social media. Let's have a look. Here we go. Simon Jordan. Now this isn't word for word, right? But this is basically what he said, right? So I like to be specific. I don't want to quote someone. This isn't exactly word for word what he said, but this was the message he was giving. And he said this yesterday about the interest in football clubs at the moment, and talking about, like Liverpool and Man United and stuff like that. And he said, if someone pays elite money for an elite football club, you can only assume that they're going to continue investing elite money to keep that club elite. And do not think that he's bang on the money there, guys, no pun intended. Minor investor is not going to invest more, right? In my opinion, I think a minor investor gives FSG another 5 to 8 years or something like that, because maybe they would pay for to improve the squad or something like that, give them a little bit of standing. But it doesn't address a long-term problem, I think. And I just think Simon Jordan was spot on there. Right, so have I thrown off? I'm sorry if I go all over the place, but is there any wonder when there's so many points that you need to make? So I was talking about FSG. There are people out there that are trying to make things up, and this is. I don't want to say too much about that, because there's a lot of people out there that share the same kind of opinions as me regarding FSG that I like and I have time for. But at the same time, I look at these people sometimes and I think, I don't know why you're saying that. Do you know what I mean? And people get passionate and that. So I'm not saying anyone's bad. I'm just saying, let's be fair. Let's be fair. Let's lay off the name calling and stuff like that. And just, we can be as frustrated as we want, but we can't change it, guys, I agree you should keep the pressure up. These things are monitored and it does make a difference. I'm not really into this idea of protesting and things like that. That doesn't really. I don't think FSG really deserve that, to be honest. I think that that takes you into the. A lot of people complain about cancel culture and these the youth of today or whatever and that, and it's like, and we've not got our own way, so we're going to stamp our feet and sulk about it and go and protest. And I don't think that's really the way to do things. We live in a democratic society. Well, most of us do, I think. There are ways and means to express yourself. You don't have to do it through a fan group or anything. You can represent yourself. There's nothing stopping you right now writing a very nice letter to John Henry and sending it to him in America and saying, "Dear John, you might never read this, but this is what I feel." What do you think they never get these letters? Come on, guys. The amount of times I've sent letters to people like that and had replies back, it's incredible. My advice would always be to send such a letter recorded delivery. That means someone's got to sign for it. It makes it stand out from the other 100 letters on the desk, right? Think about it. This is how I operate. I'm giving my secrets away. But that's what I do, right? So there's 100 letters on a desk. There's going to be 3 or 4 that have got these big fancy orange and blue stickers on that say to sign for. Immediately it sparks intrigue. Oh, what's this one? Right? The secretary might read all the others. And then usually, do you know what I do? If it's someone famous, I'll put in the top left corner, not fan mail. Something like that, you know. Or, if you want to be more professional, I would write private and confidential. Because if you send a letter, recorded delivery, to sign for, to someone important, and you put private and confidential in the top left corner, no one's going to open that but the recipient. That's just my opinion, all right? That's just my opinion. Now, if you write to John Henry and do what I've just told you, he's going to see that. He is. He's going to see it. I'd be astounded if he didn't. But you don't let yourself down. You say, look, dear John, I really appreciate what you've done for the club and all that, but I'm not really sure minor investment's the way forward. You've maximised your investment. You've done really well. Go and enjoy your life, please. Football's a different thing to baseball, John. Honestly, we have our passions, as you know. And there are, there's people out there that are crazy, and I apologise for them. How refreshing is that for someone to read something like that? Now, look, guys, I'm not being naive. John Henry's not going to turn around and just do what we want to do because we sent him a letter, right, in a fancy envelope or something. But people make decisions in life based on every single thing that comes into their mind. You know, someone could change my way of thinking on personal topics or whatever just by mentioning something to me. I go, do you know what? They made a point there. It's about catching someone at the right moment. I know some of you might think I'm waffy and fucking mental. Fine, doesn't matter. Don't send a fucking letter. I don't give a shit. I actually don't care anymore about top flight football. You guys know this that have followed me for ages. I do this more so for you guys. I want you guys to be buzzing and to be celebrating things. I look at the news today. I've been on my phone today on Twitter at Duncan Oldham, and I have a little tab that says Liverpool FC, and it's all the accounts I follow to do with Liverpool, right? And I open them up. Well, I don't follow them. I add them to what's called a list, and the list is private, right? It's something I set up recently because I don't want anyone to think, oh, Dunk follows that person, so that must give them credibility, or he endorses them. I don't want people to think that. I follow certain things because if there's people out there that if they say that it's not happening, then I'll think, well, it is then. So I follow them and I open them up, and it's just all these different, like now you've got all these different fan accounts. Everyone thinks they've got an opinion. They've all got entitlement. You know, you've got every fucking hour. I open Twitter up and there's a new video from Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville or something. The saturation's just ridiculous. Do you know what I mean, guys? It does me head in. You know, like I just want to watch Liverpool play. And I am passionate. I still care about Liverpool. I do, guys. I really do. It's all this other shit I can't be doing with. You know, the saturation, the over-analysis, the going on, and then like people spread all this misinformation. And I'll say one thing, you know, about the KopTalk members website. We do our best to limit the bullshit on there. We really do. And if you're a young supporter, and maybe that's not the right environment for you, because maybe you want to follow the indies or whatever that plant put on Twitter, and you know, like be gullible and be exploited, then it's something that will come with age. You'll mature. You'll realise as you get older that the old farts that you refer to now are actually the ones that have been a bit more experienced and been your age, and they know a bit more about what we're fucking talking about. And I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way, but it's true. When you're young, you're naive. You know, when you're young, you think footballers give a fuck about you. When you get older, you realise they don't. That applies to billionaire owners. So I see all these Liverpool fans today arguing, right? Arguing amongst themselves. You know, top Reds. We don't like being called top Reds, but we behave like top Reds. That's basically what they do. And then there's the ones on the other side that support Middle East investment that scream back at them, well, what's your entitlement? How do you represent us? There's more Liverpool fans in the Middle East than there is in Liverpool. And they're all having these arguments, guys. Arguing over millionaire footballers and billionaire owners that don't give a fuck about us. Sorry, but I've got more important things to worry about. But that doesn't prevent me doing what I do. And my love is interacting with you guys. You guys. And I envy you guys because I wish I could still be as passionate about it all as I was. Maybe it's this shit for a quarter of a century that's made me fucking a bit turned off by it all. I don't know. I still want Liverpool to do well, but I only want to watch the football. Maybe if we didn't have all these worries and stresses and that, and we could just watch the football, it'd be like what it was. You know what I'm saying? But for me, my love is more so the KopTalk community, which is made up of many, many people that I like talking to and exchanging ideas, you know? But if Liverpool are on at 3 o'clock this afternoon and there's something more important in my life that I want to do, I'll be doing that, you know? Because I'm really disheartened by it. And I'm very disheartened by it all at the minute. You know, my opinions change each week. 1 minute I think, yeah, this takeover is going to happen. And the next minute I think, oh, fucking hell, I don't like the sound of that. But based on today's date, 17th of February 2023, I still think a takeover will happen. I think FSG could be bluffing. I think they could be bluffing to try and increase the price. But I think it's already a price that is inflated anyway. I don't think people in the Middle East want to pay the prices that are being bandied around, which then does become more attractive to a minor investment from Americans. But then fuckers, guys, minor investment is the worst thing that could happen to the club. Even if they got $1 billion, right, from minor investment, do you think they're going to hand over $1 billion? If they got $1 billion for, you know, someone Redbird increased their stake in FSG, do you think they're going to go, oh, there's $1 billion there, do what you want with it? How the fuck? It'll not change, guys. It'll never change with a minor investment. All or nothing for me. But there's a part of me that thinks that they're bluffing. Things are very quiet from FSG. Think about that at the minute, guys. Things are very quiet from FSG at the moment. Yeah? What did I say to you earlier in this episode? I said to you earlier in this episode, when you hear about things, that's when things are usually not going right. So we ain't seen anything from the Boston Globe recently, have we? We've seen comment come out the other day from FSG CEO Sam Kennedy, yeah? When he's been talking about things, and he said, we did a while back engage investment banks, we've been open about that. So the club's been for sale since day fucking one, guys. Don't let these fuckers, you know, it's always been for sale, the club, right? They've said, right, many, many times the club's not for sale, not for sale. So why then are you having sit-down dinners and with people, right? Third-party representation, right, on behalf of FSG. I can think back to one example many years ago. I forget the guy's name, obviously. He was from FSG. He wasn't a third-party outsider. He was one of their main men, and they dispatched him to go and have a sit-down with someone that wanted to buy Liverpool Football Club, but the club wasn't for sale. And was never for sale. What that means is they were like not actively looking for a buyer, but we'll have a listen anyway. And obviously listened and came back and went, don't like the sound of that, do you, John? No, not at all. No, we're not for sale. That club's always been for sale. My house isn't for sale. You come and stand at my front door and wave some money in front of me, I might think, hello, this is an opportunity maybe. I'm going to fucking listen. Do you know what I'm saying? And that house is worth a price to, I know it's market value, and I know the value it's worth to me. You've got to remember that as well when it comes to selling something. People go, well, you'll only get whatever, that's the market. Fine. Well, I aren't fucking selling it then, because it's what it's worth to me. And this, you're telling me that doesn't apply in business? You know what I'm saying? So, John Henry, FSG, they've put a price on the club. All right? People that are interested maybe in the Middle East say it's too high. Then John Henry and Co can turn and say, well, that's fair enough then, we're not fucking selling it. So they can do what they want. Anyway, going back to this numpty, he said, we've been opening our willingness to take on investment into the club. Will it happen or not? I don't know. But we share a common vision with all of our partners, and that is long term. John and Tom have been at this for 21 years, but you would think they'd been at it for 21 days. Yeah, because they ain't got a fucking clue when it comes to Liverpool. Sorry, he didn't say that bit. They are enthusiastic and excited for everything at Fenway Sports Group and think about what's next. Yeah, because it's fucking greedy. Imagine, guys, is there any of you listening to this? Right, you can email me, podcast@koptalk.com, or go to www.koptalkpodcast.com and click on the contact form. Is there any of you out there that could make £1 billion? Just $1 billion, only a bit. All right, hang on, 100 million. Oh, hang on, 10 million. Hang on a minute, $1 million. Right? Is there any of you out there that could make that much money and would want to continue in your life making even more and more money for yourself and your family? What the fuck's that all about? Do you know what I mean? It's greed. It's greed, guys. I don't care what anybody says. Some numpty said on YouTube the other day, it's greed. The numpty was me. I said it's greed. And someone went, it's not greed, it's business. You've got to cheat. You've got memberships on your thing. And I think, are you having a fucking laugh? Do you know what I mean? First of all, it's an option if anyone wants to become a member of KopTalk. Nobody's putting a gun to their head. It's an option. Our fans don't have any choice as to who the fucking owners are, do they? And I can assure you right now, I wouldn't have a membership or subscriptions on the podcast, the members' website, YouTube, or anything if I didn't fucking need to. Do you know what I mean? That's the reality. Back in the day, when KopTalk first started, we didn't have any of that bullshit, and it was fucking great because you made your money from your advertising. You know? But the advertising industry collapsed in the year 2000. The dot-com bubble, I think it was called, bursting. Dot-com bubble burst. Google it. I saw it coming, made a members' website. Got fucking nothing but hate for it. And then all the fuckers that hated me back in the day, that had websites, are all doing the fucking same today. Hypocrites. But this is greed, guys. This is greed. Imagine being that old and still wanting to make more and more and more. Now, if you were like, made $1 billion and walked away and went, well, I'm going to continue working because I want to give my life to an organisation, a charity, and making the world a better place, then fine. But is that what they're doing? They're not enthusiastic. They're enthusiastic and excited about the amount of money they can make. He continues, we do focus a lot on ways that we can help increase revenues. This is specifically at Liverpool, by the way. And the growth we've seen over in Liverpool has been extraordinary. And I think that's because markets like the United States are just sort of catching on to the excitement around this league. We'll see what the future holds for Liverpool, but it's been an amazing business. All right? So this is Sam Kennedy. Now, there are content creators out there, just going back to that KopTalk thing about memberships and that have memberships and subscriptions and things like that, right? On a huge, huge scale. Right, guys, these guys are making a fucking fortune because I know how much money you can make from this shit. All right? And I don't have a huge following on YouTube. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just a big dunk, innit? You know what I mean? It's just a part of my website. But there are people out there that do it full time. All right? Now, if they want to make money, all right, that's their business, right? And if I had the amount of subscribers that these people had, which I don't particularly want, it doesn't bother me, right? I'd like more money, don't get me wrong. But they're doing it as a business. And there's nothing wrong with that. And they've got nice fancy studios and they get nice fancy people in to talk to them and stuff like that. It's because it's full time. I mean, if that's what I'd have set out to do back in the 1990s, well, KopTalk existed before YouTube, so I'll just mention that. And Google, and Facebook, and Twitter, and the official LFC website. Anyway, it doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with anybody making money off a passion, right? The only bit the reason I mention this is because it's relevant, right? The only time it becomes an issue is when you are towing the line for that and then not being honest with the fans. That's the only bit that I would say about it. So, for example, there has been times over the years when Liverpool Football Club have tried to work with me, incentives, all right, and not direct cash incentives, not like we'll give you X, but there's things they can do to help you. All right, so that could be the availability of players, for example. It could be linking up with merchandise deals and things like that. So it is cash, really, because even if you get a player, that's going to make you money, right? So if I do an interview today with Virgil van Dijk and do it big dunk style, right? Well, they won't let me do big dunk style because I don't toe the line. But if I did that, it's going to get people who are going to watch, and that makes you more money and maybe more memberships and things like that. So if I was getting that kind of access, am I really going to question the club at difficult times and ask them the questions that you guys want answering? No. That's why you never see me in that kind of environment. One, I wouldn't be asked to do it anyway. But even when I was in my 20s, right, and when KopTalk was like fucking, the internet was new back then, really, yeah, to most people. And, we had to pay per minute to access the internet back then. Think how much money that cost me. I'd be connected all day. And I actually had a guy that worked for BT that gave me a secret number to dial in so that I could update things, and I didn't get charged. Can you believe that? Some great stories. But even back then, I wanted to be independent. You'll see these claims by some of these people, unofficial, independent. But if you've got a Liverpool player sat next to you as part of that, a current player, not a former player, a current player, depends who the former players are though, a current player, you've got a good relationship there, and you're not going to risk that, and it's making you more money. And that's where you've got to understand sometimes. So I'm not saying that all the content creators out there operate like that. I just know from my knowledge that that's what happens. So you can have there'll be no contract that says, well, we'll let you have this player for an interview. We agree to that, but you must not do this. That doesn't happen. It's very like, it's an agreement. Come on, guys, please. This happens in all media relationships, surely, with politics and everything. You get access to, the Prime Minister or the President. He's somewhere along the line, you've done something he likes or they like or whatever. You fucking rock that boat and you ain't getting that anymore. But look at Piers Morgan, right? Piers Morgan and the Don, they were bestest of friends, yeah? Look at all the access Piers Morgan got. Basically accused of licking his bottom, which he did, right? And then the first time that Piers Morgan questioned him and went, hang on, you're out of order here, Donald, he was dropped like that. No longer followed him on social media, on Twitter at the time. So I'm always very cautious of these people, So someone like me, guys, I'm just trying to be honest with you, right? And I like to think that with my experience and the network that we've established over that quarter of a century, that there's enough people there to tap into there to get a good vibe of things. And not only that, but to be able to put questions to you and raise debate and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean, guys? Like, I don't know. I think we do all right at KopTalk. Anyway, this is my whole point. The entire fucking episode is about the takeover or lack of or whatever. And I haven't had any opportunity to speak to you today about other things. And this is my point. You see, like, I'm angry with myself now, but how can I not go over all these topics with you? I don't even know if this podcast was any good. Will you please, if you never email me, do email me, podcast@koptalk.com, and say, actually, Dunk, Friday's episode was all right. Or if it was shit, please tell me, because I don't know if I've explained things well. I'm trying to catch up with you all, and you might not have seen my videos. I'm probably going to put this podcast onto YouTube for them to listen to today, because maybe it contains something, One thing I'm going to touch on before I leave, there is this Top Reds, the identity or definition that's going around at the moment. There was only a few weeks ago I had to ask you guys what that meant. I thought a Top Red was someone that thought that they were like a really good fan. You know what I mean? Like, which I don't like people when they deem themselves to be a super fan or something, and I don't like people that say you're a plastic fan. I think you never justify your support to anyone. I thought it was to do with that. But you guys told me Top Reds, they're the ones that sort of like oppose Middle East investment and all that. And, I listened to his Twitter Spaces thing. Twitter Spaces is where you can go on Twitter and hold an audio conversation with a room of people, if you like, a virtual room. And the speakers, there's a host and stuff like that. And some of what you call were Top Reds were in there, all right, from particular content creators. And then there was the guys that would be on the other side, which would be the opposite of a Top Red, that supports Middle East investment. And these guys were all arguing at each other for 40 minutes. I listened to it. And I want to make it clear about this, right? I align myself with the people that support Middle East investment. When I say align myself, I mean, like, well, I just got similar views to them. I don't agree with everything they say and some of the immature things that they come out with. I don't support the Top Reds, that you call it, mentality, all right? Like, we've all got to love each other and... we do it. It's just like, I agree with that, but this is not how society works. It's just not going to work. We all want a world with no murderers and rapists and all that, but they're always going to be there. And we can always do our bit to try and make it a better world, but it's never, it's just a particular way of thinking. It's a very political way of thinking. And it doesn't work in football, in my opinion, because football business, right, is cutthroat. You don't become a billionaire by being a nice person. You just fucking don't, right? And you have pissed people off along the way. And I just think that the attitudes about the Middle East are very hypocritical by us in the West. That was evident during the World Cup. There's no doubt that things have gone on in those countries, but the US and the UK is certainly not immune from very poor things, awful things over the years, and that's coming from someone from the West, all right, and that's also coming from someone that's very, very proud of being British, and that would be on the right of politics. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm not a lefty lovey. And when I say lovey, I mean extreme. I don't like extreme right. I don't like extreme left. I like a bit from each side. I can be like that guy that goes, well, I agree with what they say, and I agree with what they say. And the human race life would be so much better if we behaved like that. And in that conversation that I'm bringing up, I was like that in that. Like, I listened to what you would call the top reds being slaughtered and answering those points, and I thought, well, actually, what they're saying is true. But then they would let themselves down and say something fucking stupid, and did come across as a bit up their own ass. Then you've got the guys that would support the Middle East, right? And I'm thinking, well, I agree with what he's saying. And then he came out with, or they would come out with something along the lines of, well, you support John Henry that's responsible for fucking this, that, and the other. But it's not. John Henry can't be held responsible for US political decisions over the years. So all that bullshit needs to be cut out on both sides. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just fucking mental. And I'm not going to comment on what might or might not happen in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, these countries, because I don't live there. And let's be honest, I can guarantee the majority of you listening to this podcast episode don't live there either, right? And you rely on what's on the news, which is the Western news. And we've just got to be careful of that. And it takes it all down the politics route. And I think politics should stay out of football, me personally. I support, gay rights. I support, anti-racism campaigns. I support all of that. But I don't need to have my footballers wearing fucking, all these different coloured armbands and fucking taking the knee and all that shite, right? I support the message, guys, on all of these things. But keep it out of football, right? And if these people with different attitudes to us want to buy the club because they love the club, and I think those in Dubai do, I can't speak for the others, right? But they're passionate, these fuckers, right, in that region, without a doubt. They're not going to try and impose their beliefs and values on our country and our way of life. That's just not going to happen, guys. They're not going to come in and say, well, women, you're not allowed to games anymore, which might not be a bad thing. And they're not going to turn around and say, right, we're having, half-time executions of the gays. You know what I'm saying? So it's all a load of nonsense. And it's driving me mental, right? So we shouldn't comment on things that we don't really know the truth about, in my opinion, And just because someone in Qatar might want to buy a Liverpool Football Club doesn't mean that they support necessarily the beliefs of the people in power in that country. Yeah? So we need to kind of cut that shit out. I don't know how you do that. Like I say, it's a very warm message to say, well, I'm principled. I don't want to have owners from a country where homosexuals don't have a voice. Right? It's a very nice thing, that, and it's really nice and warming and everything. I agree with it, absolutely. And I take my hat off to anyone that's got those values. I really do. But what the fuck has that got to do with me and my football club? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just want to see them 11 players. How do we know how all them 11 players think fucking politically or whatever? How do we know? I don't want to know what Mo Salah's religion is. I don't want to know what Andy Robertson thinks about this, Scottish independence in the UK, in England and all that, the UK and everything. I don't want to know, I don't give a fuck. Because when you start to know what people's real beliefs are, you start to maybe be turned off against them. And it shouldn't be like that. Because we're all entitled to believe what we want. And everyone should be given that, that respect to have their own opinions. And it's a policy I've endorsed on KopTalk for years. If I have 999 people saying sack the manager and one person saying, no, I think he's good. If the 999 people attack that one person, I'll say, knock it off. He's got as much right, or she's got as much right to have that opinion as anyone. I don't agree with it, but give him his fucking, the respect to have that opinion. And that goes with people that still want FSG to be at Liverpool. And we have them on this podcast and on my YouTube channels and on the KopTalk members website. Let them have their own beliefs, So we've spoken an hour about all of this shit, which is what I didn't want to do. We have not spoke about today's rumours. We have not spoke today, about other Liverpool Football Club matters. We've just spoke about this topic, a topic that's driving me mental. But the reason I'm dedicating so much time to you is because I want you to know how I feel. You know, and I just want to try and steer you in the right direction. And when I say steer you in the right direction, I wouldn't, embarrass myself and insult you by saying I'm trying to steer you into an opinion. I'm trying to steer you in the right direction by avoiding misinformation on the internet. And honestly, you're going to think I'm pushing this for my own reasons, but the KopTalk members website, I honestly think that environment is fucking amazing, because we have people that are not only involved in stuff like this, but they're on both sides of the fence as well. And 9 times out of 10, they're respectful to each other. Because when I look at social media and comments on YouTube and things like that, and all these fucking idiots that are ranting and raving, that don't know what they're talking about, I just think, you know what? I'm happy in that environment, in that more, exclusive environment. And it's up to you whether you think I'm just like trying to, push that on you. I'm not. I'm really not. I mean, I'd love it, fucking hell, someone giant signed up today, because February's a very hard month and I struggle in February. But I've been here for 25 years, so maybe, we'll keep going. We haven't fucking caved in yet, thanks to the support I get from people. So I just want you guys to avoid the misinformation. That's what I want you to do. And I think there's a lot of people out there, there's so many content creators today that they're allowed their opinions, but they're not transparent with them. And that's what bothers me. That's why I'm sure I'll have done it in this episode. It's been going that fucking long. I can't remember. I'm sure I'll have said to you, this is how I stand on a particular issue before I start commenting and trying to tell you it's right or wrong. Do you know what I mean, guys? And I can assure you there ain't nobody that I'm going to toe the line to, because I would fucking lose everything in life, whether it's to do with football or anything, to stand by something that I believed in. So I'm never going to toe the line for anyone. And there's many times over the years that people have tried to influence something, which is you. I've had people do that to me before. You need your members to do this. And I'm like, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm not doing that. They can speak for themselves. Yeah, but I need you to tell them that. No. Tell them your fucking self. I'm not going to do it. Because people on my members' website trust me. So that's why it would sound better coming from me than someone else, for example. And there's been times when I've done that and gone, no, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. I agree with what you're doing and your opinions, but I am never going to force that on people. And because I took that stance, guess what happened, guys? I got cut off. All right? So not only did I lose what I thought was a friend, in terms of the KopTalk friends, if that makes sense. I don't mean a friend in real life, in my life on a day-to-day basis, that I would hang out with, but someone that I did meet several times and that I really thought the world of. I thought they were a good egg, but they were caught up with so much vested interest, or maybe passion, a combination of both, that because I refused to do what they wanted me to do, I was cut off. So not only did I lose a friend, I also lose access to what you guys would call a source or a contact. And this is how I know when I look at other content creators, not that there's any as good as me, but what I mean by when I look at professional, content creators with a business plan, this is how I know that they're towing the line over certain matters, and I just think that's not being honest to your viewers. Anyway, quite frankly, I couldn't give a fuck. They can do what they want. So, I'm sorry today's episode has again, stayed with this issue. I will be providing some podcast episodes after the weekend. But like I say, I have got a lot going on at the moment, so please bear with me. What I'm going to end on today is just one warning, and that is, if you see an anti-FSG, anything that could make you feel anti-FSG, I need you to look at the source of that, just to see if they're just trying to incite more problems, because I don't have a problem if you're FSG out. I'm FSG out, really. But what I mean is, I'm going to do it fair and square. I don't want you to stay at Liverpool anymore, FSG, because I think you're not ambitious enough. Not because I've read some shit on Twitter. You know what I'm saying, guys? So please only judge them based on facts. I don't think it's right to blame them for every single fucking thing. Right. I want to give a shout out to people that support this podcast, and it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for these people. So you better take fucking note and listen to these people, all right? This list of people. You can join this list. We call it the squad. The squad. www.KopTalkPodcast.com. And for the cost of a coffee once a month or a beer, however you want to look at it, you can join your squad. And you get rid of all the adverts and you can listen to all the private episodes when I do them. And I think there's going to be a fair few over the coming weeks. So it might be, worth it. And it's literally like buying me a drink. If you bumped into me in a bar, would you go, all right, mate, can I get you a drink? Would you? It's the same thing. That's how I look at it. And I'm very grateful to all of these people. I really am. And like I say, you don't have the adverts and I think there's other benefits to it as well, but that's up to you to decide. So, KopTalkPodcast.com if you want to join the squad. Thank you to those of you that are on the old legacy tier, the fan tier. I do appreciate the support. Unfortunately, that's not available it's not advertised anymore, that one. So, the basic one is the supporter tier, which is very, very helpful to me. Like I said, this is just like buying me a bevy. I'd like to give a shout out to Tom Brown, TG, who recently joined the squad. Thank you, TG, top man. We've got Simon Digweed, Mark Bingley, we've got Jimmy, we've got Jamie motherfucking Gilmore, as you guys will have seen many times on the streams. We've got Harry, we've got Hamza 1996, we've got Glyn Taylor, that is, we've got Craig Halford, we've got Clint, and we've got Aaron O'Dowd, that's right. We also have James Braid, and he joined us recently, as did Liam as well, Liam Buckland. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate you stepping up to support me. We then have the legends. That's like buying me a drink with a biscuit, something like that. We've got Tyler Dean Williams. We've got Paul MC, Matt Meeker. We've got the wonderful, beautiful Jen. We've got James Lee, Jack Wood, Big Wave Dave, Andrew Evans. Yeah, actually, Craig Alford's listed on the legends. I think he supports both of my podcasts. My mobile phone is vibrating immensely at the moment, guys, and I need to check because my friend is my loved one is at a funeral right now, burying their father, and I'm here to support them. So I just got 3 or 4 messages all in quick sequence. I just wanted to check it wasn't them. I'm just trying to be a good man in society. Craig Halford, yeah, he's on the list. He is actually a legend, sorry. So, and then finally, we have the royalty. Oh, I love the royalty. All right, I've got to be honest. Well, see, these are like buying me a few drinks on a Friday, because Friday I usually go for a drink. Yeah, not today, though, unfortunately. The boys will miss me today back home. We got Michael Couchman, of course, top man. John Watt as well. How you doing, Johnny? All right? I think he popped up on the live stream the other week. He's a good lad. We got David Sutcliffe. David came in towards the end of last year. Yeah, he's a top lad as well. And of course, we've got Adam Naylor. Yeah, Adam's been with us since 2020. And he's got a YouTube channel, Adam Naylor, Naylor. A very good Liverpool FC content creator. He deserves your support. He won't toe the line, that is for sure. And that's why I like him. And Adam is the only Liverpool FC YouTuber I watch. How cool is that? I try not to associate myself too much with him, though, because if he ever mentions me, he gets people in the comments going, what are you doing listening to that fucking... You know what I mean? So Adam's good. I like Adam. And I tell you what, if you join in the streams on a KopTalk TV on a Saturday night, although there isn't one this Saturday, there will the following Saturday, or the KopTalk TV chat room, or KopTalk chat room, sorry, people are in there saying, I watch Adam, he's mint. So it's not just my views on that. If you've got a mobile device, tablet, laptop, desktop, you can join me and the rest of the squad. There are lots of people to do with KopTalk in our free chat room. And you're going to have to go to a web browser and you're going to have to type this in, T for Telegram, .me, t.me/KopTalk News, one word, right? You're going to do that. t.me/KopTalk News, and you will then be prompted to download Telegram, which is a free app. It's like WhatsApp. Hundreds and hundreds of million people use it around the world. It's better than WhatsApp. And you can join the news channel, so you'll get news alerts from KopTalk. Not fucking stupid rumours and shit like that, just the stuff that you need to know. And then you're going to go to t.me/KopTalk Chat. right? One word, T for telegram.me/KopTalk chat. And you do the same thing, and that's the chat room. That's where we all are all of the time. So I would love you to be on the VIP members website, but maybe you're not in a position to do so, or you don't have the time to do that. But that means wherever you are in the world, you can be in that chat room with me and everybody else, right? And it's not mental. I only launched it recently. There's only a couple of hundred people in there. There's a few people registered recently that don't want to use even a fake name, so like full stops and stuff like that. Makes you wonder who they are, doesn't it? Like, why would you not want to, maybe not use your real name if you're paranoid or something, or maybe you've got a professional job, but, like someone could call themselves by the first name, or, let's say you call David Sutcliffe, it's royalty, for example, he could be called David, Dave, D, Red Dave. But when someone puts a full stop for a username, I always think, hello, who the fuck's that? You know what I'm saying, guys? Come and have a look, t.me/KopTalk chat. And but don't be bringing any misinformation, because you'll be told off. All right? Don't go, I've read this on Twitter. What do you think? We don't want that. All right. Listen, thanks again to the squad. www.KopTalkPodcast.com. Now, if you do become a KopTalk VIP member at any time, you do get the bonus episodes of the podcast and the videos from KopTalk TV. So it saves you coin, and it's one place to get everything. And maybe we should do some giveaways, because I would like to get more of you involved, really, on the members' website, because it is a good community. And on KopTalk TV last Saturday, we had Dean on there who gave away 5, or maybe even 10, I can't remember, memberships, KopTalk TV memberships. And I gave 5 away on there. So get involved, And, it's a difficult time. Listen, I help people, right? So people that support me, if they fall on hard times, they go, can't renew, don't, can be skin, and the wife, I'll go, just don't worry about it, don't tell her, I'll leave you in here. When you're back on your feet, get me a beer. So I'm good. Right? It's not about, for me, quantity. It's about quality, as Rafa would say. It's about quality. Good people, grown-up people that get it, that aren't going to be upset about any fucking thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I say anything, I mean not going to be offended by something like... But someone that's not wet. There you go. We don't want wet people on KopTalk. So, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about anything to do with Liverpool Football Club. So this is my pledge to you. My next episode. Let's stay away from the takeover stuff. I will try and do you an episode of the weekend, but it's really dependent on the situation here, obviously, because they're all dressed in black today and they're all crying, and I'm not I didn't know the person that died. I could have gone to the funeral, but I don't think it's appropriate to go to funerals when you don't know the person that died, even to support people. I'm happy to sit in a car park or something. So it's not a very pleasant time for me. That sounds so awful. What I mean is, it's not nice seeing people upset. But I'm here to support them, all right? So if I can get on, I'll be here, all right? And I think I'm going to start doing some watch-alongs as well, live on YouTube when I get back home, because a lot of you have been after them, but I'll only do it with the games that are on satellite, because I can't be doing it with this stream and you celebrating a goal before I see it. So that's something to look forward to. You can email me, podcast@koptalk.com. I do hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I'd appreciate some feedback, please. I am going to upload this episode to my YouTube channel, because there might be some people who want to listen to it that way. And I do think it gives a good summary, maybe, or hopefully, of the current state of play, which I will end by saying I still think the club could be sold in full. I do think there's interest in the club from all of the places we've heard: Qatar, Saudi Arabia, a joint Saudi-Qatar interest. I think there's multiple interests, which is worrying in America in terms of minor investment. There's a bit more about that on the members' website from a week or so ago. And maybe on KopTalk TV, I'm not sure where we've discussed it. I do think there is a lot of interest in the club. I don't fall for this narrative that there's no serious interest. I think it's nonsense. And my personal, just like the Dubai thing, that I just think love don't fall away, so I would just listen out for that, and we'll just keep the faith and see what happens. But That missing girl that's been on the news last few weeks, that Nicola Bully, that's stuff to be upset about. You know what I'm saying, guys? So let's not get upset about football. Try and be respectful to each other. Try not to shoot down someone else who's got a different opinion to you. Don't use every opportunity to slate the owners now, no matter how much you want them gone. And just don't be mugged off by these fucking idiots on social media and content creators as well. You know what I mean? I hope that you find my podcast episodes informative and stuff and give you things to think about. That's my only objective here. And just by listening to this podcast, you're supporting me. So I do appreciate everything that you guys do for me. Okay, guys, take care, and I'll hopefully be back with you real soon.